Questions and comments? The Honourable Member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank the Minister very much for a very strong presentation on this bill. I want to talk a bit about this vouching system again. I know the Minister represents an urban city. I'm from a semi-urban area of Mississauga. We have many high-rise apartment buildings. And one of the things that I have seen is I've seen on mail delivery day when the voter cards are delivered to community mailboxes in an apartment building, we often find that many of them are actually just discarded. They're in the garbage can or in the blue box. And I have actually witnessed other people coming in, picking up voter cards, going back to, I guess, whatever campaign of the candidate they support, and actually handing out those voter cards to other individuals who then walk into a voting station with a friend of theirs that vouches for them with no ID. Does the Minister not believe this kind of thing will get cleaned up properly under this bill?
The Honourable Minister.
Earlier this afternoon, I asked the Minister of Western Economic Diversification a question, and I think my friend from York South Weston will appreciate this, because just like the riding I represent, he has lots of apartment buildings in his riding as well. And here's what I've seen. I actually have seen this on the ground. On mail delivery day, when those voter cards are in those mailboxes, the residents come home, pick them out of the box, and they throw them in the garbage can. And I've seen campaign workers follow up after that, pick up a dozen of them, and walk out. Now, why are they doing that, Mr. Speaker? They're doing it so they can hand those cards to other people who will then be vouched for at a voting booth and vote illegally. That is going to stop.
The honourable member for Mississauga-Streetsville, I believe, is rising on a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I am rising on a point of order with respect to debate that took place on February 6th in this House regarding the Fair Elections Act. I made a statement in the House during the debate that is not accurate, and I just want to reflect the fact that I have not personally witnessed individuals retrieving voter notification cards from the garbage cans or from the mailbox areas of apartment buildings. I, in fact, have not personally witnessed that activity. I wanted the record to properly show that.
Thank you.
I am now prepared to rule on the question of privilege raised on February 25th, 2014 by the House Leader of the official opposition regarding statements made in the House by the member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
I would like to thank the Honourable House Leader of the official opposition for having raised this matter, as well as the Honourable Leader of the Government in the House and the Honourable Members for Winnipeg North and Kingston and the Islands for their comments. I also want to acknowledge the statements made by the member for Mississauga-Streetsville.
The Honourable House Leader of the official opposition claimed that the Honourable Member for Mississauga-Streetsville had deliberately misled the House on February 6, 2014, during debate on Bill C-23, the Fair Elections Act, when he stated that he had witnessed evidence of voter fraud firsthand. He further argued that the matter was not resolved by the statements made by the member for Mississauga-Streetsville on February 24th and 25th, where he admitted that, contrary to his original claim, he had not actually witnessed what he had originally claimed to have witnessed. In his view, this was not a simple case of someone misspeaking. He argued rather that it was a case where the member deliberately chose to take something he knew not to be true and present it as eyewitness evidence, something so egregious it constituted contempt. The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House noted that the member for Mississauga-Streetsville had fulfilled his obligation to correct the record so that no inaccuracies persisted. He suggested that in and of itself this should be sufficient to, quote, rebut any concern that there has been a contempt, unquote.
This incident highlights the primordial importance of accuracy and truthfulness in our deliberations. All members bear a responsibility, individually and collectively, to select the words they use very carefully and to be ever mindful of the serious consequences that can result when this responsibility is forgotten.
Lorsque la demandée
In calling on the chair to arrive at a finding of prima facie in this case, the Honourable House Leader of the official opposition cited my ruling of May 7th, 2012, where at page 7650 of the debates, I reminded the House that, before finding that a member had deliberately misled the House, 3 conditions had to be met.
1, it must be proven that the statement was misleading. 2, it must be established that the member making the statement knew at the time that the statement was incorrect. And 3, that in making the statement, the member intended to mislead the House, unquote. Arguing all 3 of these conditions had been met, he concluded that a breach of privilege had occurred. It was with these criteria in mind that I undertook a thorough review of all relevant statements made in the House on this matter, focusing particularly, of course, on the statements made by the Honourable Member for Mississauga-Streetsville. Originally, on February 6th, he stated, quote, "I have actually witnessed other people picking up the voter cards, going to the campaign office of whatever candidate they support, and handing out these voter cards to other individuals, who then walk into voting stations with friends who vouch for them with no ID," unquote. Later that day, he added, quote, "I will relate something I have actually seen," unquote. It was only on February 24th that he rose to state, quote, "On February 6th, I made a statement that is not accurate. I just want to reflect the fact that I have not personally witnessed fraudulent activity and want the record to properly show that," unquote. On February 25th, he returned to the House, characterized his February 6th statement as, quote, "an error on my part," unquote, and apologized, quote, "to all Canadians and to all members of the House," unquote, adding that it was never my intention in any way to mislead the House, unquote. The chair takes due note that the member for Mississauga-Streetsville has admitted that his February 6th statement was not true and that he has apologized for his mistake.
As was noted by the Honourable Leader of the Government in the House, we all recognize that there is an enduring practice here of giving members the benefit of the doubt when the accuracy of their statements is challenged. It is often the case that questions of privilege raised on such matters are found to be disputes as to facts rather than prima facie questions of privilege, primarily due to the high threshold of evidence that the House expects. Speaker Parent stated on page 9247 of debates on October 19th, 2000.
Only on the strongest and clearest evidence can the House or the Speaker take steps to deal with cases of attempts to mislead members, unquote. From what the member for Mississauga-Streetsville and other members have revealed, it is quite clear that the House has been provided with 2 narratives that are contradictory statements. At the same time, the member for Mississauga-Streetsville stated that he had no intention of misleading the House. The President Milliken a dû...
Speaker Milliken was faced with a similar set of circumstances in February 2002 when the then Minister of National Defence, Art Eggleton, provided contradictory information to the House. In a ruling on a question of privilege raised about the contradiction, Speaker Milliken stated on February 1st at page 8581 of debates, quote, "I am prepared, as I must be, to accept the Minister's assertion that he had no intention to mislead the House," unquote.
With that, President, I am prepared to accord the same courtesy to the member for Mississauga-Streetsville. At the same time, the fact remains that the House continues to be seized of completely contradictory statements. This is a difficult position in which to leave members who must be able to depend on the integrity of the information with which they are provided to perform their parliamentary duties. Accordingly, in keeping with the President cited earlier, in which Speaker Milliken indicated that the matter merited, quote, "further consideration by an appropriate committee, if only to clear the air," unquote, I am prepared in this case, for the same reason, to allow the matter to be put to the House. I therefore invite the Honourable House Leader of the official opposition to move the traditional motion at this time.